Yes, sir. So I think we should start with the how the people kind of started hearing about this. So former attorney JFK Jr. had this to say about this as he responds to Kamala making some unsupported statements as usual. First of all, Kamala Harris says Trump said he wanted generals like Adolf Hitler. He wants a military that is not loyal to the Constitution, but loyal to him. This is a window into what Donald Trump really is from the people who know him best. So regarding that remark, Robert F. Kennedy brings up the D.O.D. directive, and he says this is the kind of inflammatory poison that divides our nation and inspires assassins. It's particularly ironic since Biden and Harris have just pushed the D.O.D. directive, giving the Pentagon power for the first time in history to use lethal force to kill Americans on U.S. soil who protest government policies. Now, in response to that, we have a clip of Joe Rogan and his interpretation. Now, although it's not as simple as how Joe Rogan puts it, which is him saying that they can use lethal force for any protest, it's still a problem and can and does increase the government's control and reach into doing what they want. So do you want to pull up that clip?
Did you see this thing that the Biden administration pushed through? This new martial law thing, giving the Pentagon power for the first time in history to use lethal force to kill Americans on U.S. soil who protest government policies. That's terrifying for the first time in U.S. history, giving the military the ability to shoot and kill American citizens.
Now, some people on the other side have have protested to this because they're saying that no, the government can't just start shooting people for protesting only, and that's kind of what it implies. But it's not the fact that the government is going to start killing people just off of the protest, but if the government does think it's an emergency situation, kind of like how Trudeau created an emergency situation from the trucker convoy, for example, and they, let's just say they find some people that are armed, then they could more easily come up with the excuse to use lethal force in order to disperse people. Now, we have a better clip that kind of explains it.
Before I play it, I just want to mention that there is a lot of paid actors. And what I mean about paid actors is the government pays, literally have paid actors to inflate a situation and make it look out of place. They can make a peaceful protest seem like it's not peaceful because of these certain individuals who pass as protesters. So it definitely
Like that,
is.
a good example is the January 6th in the States and the trucker convoy in Canada. You guys remember the Nazi flag that was posted with the trucker convoy in Canada? That was supposedly an insider, like the way you're describing. And what's crazy about that situation is that the people protesting shut that guy down right away. But what did they do? They got a quick screenshot, a quick picture, posted all over social media, pictured the whole group as Nazis, and they ran off with it. And then controlled the narrative, which a lot of people fell for. Along the way, people got more informed about the whole situation, what these truckers actually stood up for, which is actually for the citizens of Canada. And the picture actually, like the real reality of the whole thing came out, which it was a positive thing. It was for the country. It was for the freedoms that we all love and appreciate. But for that moment, it caused a whole narrative that was absolute misinformation. It was propaganda. Anyways, play the clip.
You might have a situation where, if you remember the Boston Marathon bombing, the local police, supported by other localities and state police, effectively locked down entire neighborhoods and went street by street, house by house, door to door, pulling every single person out of their residence, hands in the air, get down onto the sidewalk, onto your knees, we search you, we search your premises, and then we move on. In a situation like that, you may want to have additional help, and it may be the military that gets called in. So now the potential to have a well-trained military force, in addition to whatever law enforcement is in an area, to stem or quell a civil disturbance or any type of unruly, as it's deemed by law enforcement, event increases. And the possibility, not exclusively, but the possibility that force could be used in that situation is significantly higher. And depending upon how long this situation lasts, you effectively have a standing army. So if it is a case of a state of emergency that's been declared in a particular area, they could be there days to weeks to months, depending upon what the scenario is that unfolds. And since there is no defined timeline, and perhaps within the minute details of the back channel communications, there is an order of operation as to how to de-escalate or step down the situation.
Because it's like the guy is saying, because there's no like direct detailed way of operating that to impose that policy or that directive. It just opens the door to, like, imagine the extreme lefts, which have been I believe they're extreme because the way they've been running the Canada and the US, both Biden and Trudeau, they've absolutely driven these two countries into the dirt. Imagine them having a power like that under them and then using it. Like, for me, that's scary. I would not want to see anything like that happen.
It's funny that it's Biden and Trudeau throughout the trucker convoy that are, suspending these civil liberties after the left wants all their civil.
Yeah, Marxism. I believe it's straight Marxism.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. It's definitely like more and more of our rights being stripped. Like now you can't even, like the whole recent protest exists is to push back on laws and things that are being passed down that we as the people don't agree with whoever isn't putting them in power. That is the whole point of it, right? Now, of course, there is the side where these get drastically dangerous when they start vandalizing, but usually a lot of these people tend to do them peacefully.
Right.
What does it take for a peaceful protest to go sideways? Like I said, a lot of them are done by paid actors because the people who put the laws don't want the people to be heard. So what do? They destroy their credibility by making it seem like they're all fucking out to destroy and they don't care about the country and all that. So it's crazy.
And that's been proven. That's been proven in January 6th with all the informants that they had, right? They literally had informants. They proved it. We don't really have anything to pull up, but that it's all there.
Yeah, like, and then there's other problems in that situation, the January 6th. We can go very deep or keep it short, but things like the Nancy Pelosi, which part of the government who held back the police from intervening, from stopping them from going inside the White House. It was like this whole thing was a stage from the back to frame Trump as the guy causing these problems. Yeah. Right, but if you're in power of DC and you're the one controlling the things going on there, and you're holding the costs back, you're framing. That's essentially what you're doing. And right now, if I'm not mistaken, they're actually suing the state. The people that were portrayed as these horrible people who are actually just protesting their rights are now coming around and they're suing for major bank, right? And I think it's correct to do that. You should keep them accountable, as always. And guys, look, at the end of the day, I'm not here to be like, oh, left this, right this. No. I want to be in the center. If Trump was to get out of line, or Pierre Poilievre comes in power and he gets out of line, I want to be that guy in the middle and be like, hey, there's two scenarios. Which one is he lying about? What is the truth? Where's the truth? And how can we get to the bottom of it? Yeah. These guys always got to be accountable. And us as people that are not only trying to do journalism, it's our responsibility, and everyone else doing it, to be truthful about every scenario and keep these people accountable. You don't want to be thinking left and you don't want to be thinking right. Two possibilities. What is the truth? Right? Yeah. All these guys, at the end of the day, they're all there's people in their ears who are contributing to their ways of conducting themselves and putting things in power in action. So if they're not moving in the people's interest, they must be accountable for sure.
Just wanted to touch on that, like you said, it's not about being the right or the left. It's about what benefits the country, right? And a lot of people get stuck on the idea of what's ideal, right? Like Justin Trudeau just recently said he condemned the U.S. citizens for not doing the chance of picking their first female president. And if the only reason they want a female president is only because she's female and they don't look at the qualifications, they're only looking at the ideal part of it. Like, oh yeah, we're going to have a female president for the first time. But if that female president is not qualified, she's not going to help the country. That's not something that we should look at. It needs to be what's ideal for the country. If she's a woman and she's qualified, all for it. But if she's underqualified to do the job, just because she's a woman doesn't, you know what I'm saying? Like, it doesn't work that way.
Trudeau is literally the number one gaslighter that you could have possibly put in power. And this guy, he drove, he's the reason why I got into politics. He's strictly the only reason why I started falling in love with what politics means and why you got to pay attention to it. Because if you don't, and there's not people holding these people accountable, or people that are going against like what these government officials have been doing when it's wrong, we're literally being we're heard being thrown off a cliff, essentially.
Bro, he's the definition of confusion. He doesn't even know what a woman is. Like he literally like named a man who transitioned to a woman as the Queen of Canada. Like,
that's insanity.
So crazy.
All right, is everybody okay on this topic? Can we move on or?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm down to move on, but one day, sooner rather than later, we got to do a compilation of Trudeau and all his fucking antics.
Oh, I think we could find a lot of videos on that, but that will be like a whole podcast itself, just listening to all the things this guy. Yeah,
just one episode.
For real.
Yeah, so humanoid robots will march into factories.